Welcome to this week's BizSmart Lunch and Learn webinar. Our weekly webinars are aimed to provide advice and share knowledge amongst business owners. If you would like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners just by leaving us a comment. Our host joining me today is BizSmart Select member Stuart Avis. Stu, thanks, over to you.
That's great. Thanks, Caroline. Firstly, apologies. I've got a streaming cold and a sore throat, so sounding slightly less dulcet tones than normal. So this afternoon's webinar is going to be a little bit different. There's no point in kind of trying to be dishonest with yourself, and I'm not in the best place at the moment, and I've spent a few months kind of struggling with a few things. And I really kind of feel that I'm not where I want to be, and that, as someone said, I've kind of lost my mojo. We feel lost, and we have no sense of purpose or direction, and that we could kind of quite happily give up. And if you're in that place right now, or you have been, then kind of maybe you've lost what they call your mojo. And so I'm going to be kind of just really honest and let you know that I'm in that place right now. And I hate feeling like this. I've always been driven. I've always had a sense of purpose, always had a sense of direction. And I don't anymore. And it's not a good place to be. And if you've been there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So this webinar is kind of really there to encourage you and to support you and help you. Firstly, you're not alone if you feel like this, and I know that I'm not alone because I know that others are going through the similar situation. So I just kind of want to go through 6 lessons that I am learning right now on my journey to kind of get back to me being the me that I'm comfortable with. And so I hope this stuff helps. It is personal, but I hope there's stuff that you can relate to. I reckon I'd actually make a really good ostrich. It's one of my core defense mechanisms is to kind of bury my head in the sand, and to pretend the stuff around me isn't actually happening, or with just in the course of time it'll go away. And if I ignore it long enough, and sadly that doesn't really work, and then only actually makes this worse. So don't bury your head in the sand. Acknowledge that you're in a difficult place and own that. It's not wrong to feel like that. It's not your fault. So the thing to do is to kind of be honest with yourself. Recognize that you are where you're at. And it took me a long while and a bit of a crisis. It freed up some kind of space within me to kind of begin that journey back. So I guess the first lesson I've learned is kind of don't be an ostrich. So kind of be honest with yourself and the stuff that's going on around you. So that's the only don't. The next 5 are kind of do's. They're more positive. So this one is be a mole. Now, once I've been kind of brutally honest with myself, I realised I needed to understand why I was feeling like this. Now, none of us ever get to this place randomly. There's always a trigger. There's always something, a reason why we lose our mojo. And there's this Latin phrase that says "cavo profundus," which means dig deep. And moles dig deep. And it's really important to do the same. So you need to begin to examine the circumstances that you are in and that you're involved with, and dig deep to uncover and discern the impact that these things are having on your life. So how does your home life affect your work life? How does your work life affect your home life? If you've had a really great day at work, you bring all that positive energy back to home with you. If you've had a really stressful morning, getting the kids out to school and and all that kind of stuff, you can bring that negative energy into work. And if it happens long enough, over long enough time, it really starts to kind of have a big negative impact. So try to find out why you're feeling the way that you do. Because the blunt truth is that the situations I'm facing have just exhausted me. I don't have that energy, that sense of purpose, because I'm investing so much into other situations. But I know that I can do something about this. And so I guess it's kind of being honest with yourself, but also being aware of the impact that the external situations are having on you, your energy, your time, and the things that you can invest yourself in. So kind of be a mole and dig deep into some of those reasons, because actually when you begin to find them, you'll begin to be able to understand how you can make some changes to make positive impact in these things. So the second thing, or the third thing, should I say, lesson number 3, is be a meerkat. Meerkats are lovely creatures. They live in tight-knit communities, and they look out for each other. Don't isolate yourself. Be part of a community. It's not easy telling other people how you feel, especially if they're colleagues or their peers or their suppliers, or they're people in your networking group, for instance, about the stuff you're dealing with. Now, I know it's not always appropriate to share stuff. There needs to be the right time and place. But it's really important that you get yourself into a community of people who you can share stuff with, but also who can support you. And that was obviously friends and family. But as important, it's other business owners, people who understand the pressures that running a business can have on your personal life, on things that you do, and kind of get the situations that you're facing. So it's really important to surround yourself with people who get you and who can kind of look out for you as well. So that's kind of really important. And I've begun to do that recently, and it's a really big help. Just to recap, if you first lesson on, you obviously got them from the slides anyway, is kind of don't be an ostrich. So acknowledge where you're at, be honest with yourself. Be a mole, dig deep into the reasons why you're feeling the way that you do. And then kind of be a meerkat. So don't isolate yourself, be part of a community and share with others, people who kind of get it, but also get you as well, and who can look out for you. And I've begun to do that recently, and it is a really big help and support, so that there are others who have been in similar situations and can kind of identify with where I'm at, but also people who understand me as me, and that's really important. So it needs to be a mixture of friends, family, but also people who run their own businesses. So hopefully that helps. Right, okay, moving on to number 4, be an eagle. So those that know me know that I love birds of prey, and eagles nest in trees or mountaintops, but it's not where they belong. They own the skies, they soar majestically above the landscape, they survey their territory. In other words, when they're in the air, they have perspective. I speak from experience when I say that it's nigh on impossible to see the wood for the trees when you're in a difficult situation. Your own circumstances can become all consuming and can kind of threaten to overwhelm you. And it's an awful place to be. And that's why it's critical to get some perspective. So I'm going to share, excuse me a minute, 3 things that I've done to help me get perspective. So I appreciate that you're unique and that you're different. So I appreciate that you're unique and different. So you may well need a bit of trial and error and perseverance to try to make the changes that you need to make. So the first change that I've made is I changed my environment. So I work in an office on my own, and it's never a good place for me if I'm not in a good place. So at least once a week, I try to work from home. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. I've got the kids at home, and but what is nice is that my wife and I can sometimes go out for a bite to eat, or I might go grab a sandwich or go out for a walk. It also means that as she's around, I can't give in temptation to kind of just take it easy for a morning. I have to kind of get on, and having that extra motivation, someone looking over your shoulder going, so what are you doing today, darling, is actually quite a nice thing. It's a lovely change of scenery. So one of the things I would do is kind of maybe try to change your working environment or working habits in some way to make a positive change. The second thing that I've done is do something to contribute. So right in the middle of kind of my darkest time, very late last year, I was randomly emailed by a young man who wanted a bit of work experience over the Christmas break, and we couldn't make the dates work. But actually, he's now coming in on a Friday once a week to work on some real world projects. Not only is it great to have company in the office, which is lovely, but it's nice to kind of give back as well, but also nice to know that I have something to offer, because I can teach him stuff and go, actually, do you know, I've kind of almost forgotten I knew that. And it's almost self-validation, and that makes me feel good about myself, which isn't a bad thing. And actually I end up having a much better day. And so I guess it's about being creative in the way that you make these changes. Because the other thing that I've done is I've actually started to work less. So I've not got a long drive to and from work, but it can be very congested, and with the school runs and kind of, you know, the post end of day traffic work and all that post end of work traffic. So I'm now leaving a little bit later from home and leaving a little bit earlier from the office, so I miss that kind of rush hour jam. So it means I'm much less stressed when I get into work, and much less stressed when I get home from work as well. And the temptation when we're in difficult situations is to double down, to work harder, to keep on pushing, keep on driving forwards. But actually all that does for me is create more tension, more stress, gives me less clarity, and sucks up energy I either don't have or I need to be investing elsewhere. So I do work on occasion slightly shorter days, but I'm also focusing on, instead of juggling 17 different projects, I've actually almost cherry picked a few projects for the moment, things that I can fully invest myself into, can see through to completion, and know that I'm doing a really good job. And so I'm not having to juggle lots of things, and my day-to-day life is much less interrupted because I haven't got as many clients phoning or emailing. And it actually means that not only do I get to spend a bit more time with my family, which is great, but I'm more productive, I'm more focused, and I'm actually, again, really enjoying my work. So get some perspective, make changes, creative changes that are actually going to give you that perspective. So hopefully, you can, through a bit of trial and error, kind of find ways to sort of get some perspective for yourself. So the fifth thing, we're going to wrap it up very shortly, is dolphins. Be a dolphin. Dolphins love to play. They love to have fun. They love to be social with each other. And it's very tempting when you lose your mojo to stop doing the things that you really enjoy doing. And I started doing that, and I realised that was just idiotic, frankly. So I've actually started doing more of the things I love, more of the things that actually bring me joy and it kind of bring me pleasure, because actually that makes me feel good, and I'm making a positive change, and it means I have stuff to look forward to as well. So I go out for, some more regular curries, or once a week I go out for a mate with a beer, or I'm in a band, so I'm kind of being a little bit more involved with that at the moment. And the more you do the things that you love, the more you do stuff that's actually going to kind of bring you joy, the more joy will be in your life, and the quicker you'll find your sense of purpose, that sense of excitement, your sense of vision will return, because you're just enjoying things more. And it's not always easy. It does take emotional and physical energy to get out there and do stuff, but it's so worthwhile. And the last one is be a camel. This kind of may seem like a really odd one to finish on, but for me it's the most important one. If you've ever been for a camel ride in the desert, and I have, you'll know just how uncomfortable they are and how dull the landscape can be. And trust me when I say that if you've lost your mojo, the landscape can be very lifeless, and it can feel like you're in the middle of a desert. But the incredible thing about camels is they just keep plodding on. That's what they do. They just keep going on until they reach Oasis. So don't give up. It's so easy to give that temptation. Oh, gee, I just can't deal with this anymore. Don't give up, because actually your Oasis is around the corner. Those camels, they keep on plodding on until they find that space of cool, refreshing water and the shade that's actually going to cool them down. They're tenacious, they're stubborn, they're bad-tempered, which is like me on most mornings, but they get there in the end. Now, I'm in a desert, but I'm keeping on plodding until I reach that Oasis. I have no idea when it will happen, but I choose to believe it will. And so I'm going to tenaciously hang in there until I do. And I guess my most critical, if you take nothing else away from this, is don't give up. Keep plodding on, because you will reach your Oasis. So I hope that helps. I guess it's probably quite a different webinar than most. But I hope that offers some encouragement and some help along the way. I don't know if you've got any questions, so I'll kind of hand back to Caroline.
Okay, thank you very much, Stu, for that webinar today. Let's have a look to see if you do have any questions. You do, yeah. And the first one is from Sarah, and she asks, can I ask what happened to make you take charge?
Yeah, the big thing was I had a really difficult situation, and it's a long-term situation that we're facing at home at the moment. And it got to a point at Christmas where I woke up one morning and thought I'd rather be home on my own at Christmas than with my family. And that was a real wake-up call, because for me, Christmas is all about spending time with my family and my friends. And that's when I knew that I was really in quite a difficult place. And when I realised that, I began to make some changes very quickly, because I realised that actually how I wasn't handling the situation was having a really quite big impact on my family, and so for me that was the moment of crisis. It kind of built up, and then I had that moment of kind of clarity, for want of a better word. So that was the thing that kind of did it for me. And there will always be a point where you go, oh my goodness, this is where I'm at, and you then have the choice to go to either handle that negatively and retreat into yourself, or to go, no, I'm going to be positive and proactive in being with this. And I kind of think I've made the right choice, and it's it's a long road back, but we'll get there. Okay. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. Another question. This one's from Stuart, and he asks, any tips on how I can stop myself falling back into this trap?
That's a good one. I guess the first thing to say is you can't help how you feel. Because what you feel is what you feel, whether you're happy or you're sad or you're joyful or you're tearful, whatever. I mean, you can't help that. And I guess it's about the choices you make, recognizing and understanding how you feel, and then making your choices within that to either handle that well or handle it badly. So if you feel that you've been in a difficult place, and you're kind of coming out on the side of the light in the tunnel, you feel yourself slipping back, do more of the things that help you. So maybe spend a bit more time with friends, or go and share stuff with a colleague and go, I'm just feeling like I'm being pulled back in, or take a day off. Do something that breaks that cycle, breaks the chain, as a song goes, and be aware that it's happening, and be positive and proactive in that. So what I do is, if I feel myself just having a bit of a bad morning, I'll go, right, do you know what, it's not working for me this morning, I'm going to go for a walk. Or I'm going to work from home for the rest of the day, because it breaks that cycle, and then I have to get back into it. And for me, that's a good thing. But for you, it'll be something very different, I suspect. But I hope that helps anyway.
Okay, thank you. One more question from Claire, and she asks, how can I help other colleagues I see in a similar situation?
Oh my goodness. Don't push them to find solutions. Don't tell them ever to pull their socks up. That doesn't help. Really not. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So listen at least twice as much as you talk. Just listening to people is, I find, for me, the thing that helps most. When people give me of their time, I'm not sure I haven't said that right, but and just listen to something, I value that far more than I say anything else, because they've taken time out of what they're doing to just listen to me talk about where I'm at, but also encourage them to talk about stuff, encourage them to be honest, and it can be a long road. It can be a long way back, depending on the situation and circumstances. And everyone's unique, everyone's different, everyone handles things in different ways. But just be there for them, I guess. Let them know that you are there and that you care enough to want to see them get back to a good place, and offer, why don't we go out for lunch and just have a chat about stuff or whatever. Keep it low key, and that might just be the thing that that person needs, and hang in there with them as well. I'm very fortunate to know that the guys I've got around me, are here for the long term, not just, I've spoken to Stuart once kind of thing. So yeah, again, it's so personal, so depending on the individual and circumstances. But I guess I kind of hope that helps.
Okay.
So, there we go.
Thank you very much for hosting today's webinar, Stu.
That's all right.
I do apologise, everyone, for the sound problems at the beginning.
Yeah, that was my fault. I had my iPad on. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I hope we sorted it in time. I will be sending out a copy of the presentation and Stu's contact details out to you all very shortly. So please do contact him if you have any further questions. Before we close, just a quick reminder, if you would like to keep up to date on our latest webinars, please make sure you follow us on SlideShare or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also access all of our resources for business owners just by leaving us a comment. That's the end of today's BizSmart webinar. Thank you all for listening, and we hope you can join us again very soon.